This is CBC Vancouver News.
We do have bonds with certain animals like dogs and cats. There's so many animals that we do not know, therefore we disregard them. And I feel it's really, really important to bring voice to those animals.
An international animal rights movement was recognized in Vancouver for the first time. Why protesters are calling for urgent change to better protect animal welfare in BC. And
the fact that we have not had communication is not a telltale sign of any sort of outcome.
a search is underway for 3 missing climbers near Squamish, but crews say the heavy rain and remote terrain is hampering rescue efforts. Plus,
I was given the opportunity to come out and play ball, and for me that was a very, eventful, cathartic experience.
A softball tournament is highlighting the journeys of those recovering from addiction. Organizers say it's all about creating community. Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. Dozens of activists rallied at the Vancouver Art Gallery today to mark National Animal Rights Day. As Michelle Morton reports, protesters are calling for urgent change and stricter regulations to better protect animals that are used for everyday food, fur, lab testing, and entertainment. And a warning, this story may contain images that are disturbing for some viewers.
So many of the animals that we are advocating for are behind closed doors.
Amy Serrano has been advocating for animal rights for years. She is one of dozens of protesters at Vancouver's first National Animal Rights Day rally. Similar events took place in roughly 150 cities around the world Sunday.
There is a necessity and an obligation for all of us as human beings to think very, very critically about our relationships with animals, how billions of animals do endure a great level of unnecessary suffering.
Some protesters held dead animals, while others held photos of animals they claim were killed by abuse and exploitation. The group is calling for enhanced animal protections.
Today, we unveiled the Declaration for Animal Rights, where we are asking people to sign. Globally, there's tens of thousands of signatures calling for a Bill of Rights for animals, to acknowledge that animals have inherent rights and they should be protected.
In 2022, Serrano was convicted of break-and-enter and mischief after an animal rights group entered a hog farm in Abbotsford and staged a sit-in. The protest in response to video allegedly showing the living conditions of the animals at the farm. She was sentenced to 30 days in jail and 1 year's probation. On Friday, she was in court seeking an appeal to overturn her sentence.
We do have bonds with certain animals like dogs and cats. There's so many animals that we do not know, therefore we disregard them. And I feel it's really, really important to bring voice to those animals.
The 2019 protest sparked an investigation by the BC SPCA. Both Pellet and Serrano say they are encouraged to see the international animal rights movement expand to Vancouver and want to see stricter animal protection laws created by all levels of government, a move advocates hope will create improved animal welfare and coexistence. Michelle Morton, CBC News, Vancouver.
A search is underway for 3 missing mountaineers north of Squamish. Rescue crews say the experienced climbers were last seen Friday morning when they went up Mount Atwell in Garibaldi Park. They have not been heard from since.
In that area, communication is often an issue, even with satellite communication devices. So whether the fact that we have not had communication is not a telltale sign of any sort of outcome. Like I said, we are still in a search and rescue operation. That search and rescue operation is just on pause while we wait for the weather window to allow us to go in and safely execute that operation.
He says due to the heavy rain and dense fog, visibility has been very poor and winter conditions, including avalanche risk, are making it dangerous for rescue crews to access the remote area. He says Squamish Search and Rescue has seen an influx of calls lately and is reminding those exploring more complex terrain to check trails before heading out and to be prepared with essential supplies if an emergency does happen. BC's police watchdog has been called in after a man was fatally shot in Mackenzie yesterday. Mounties say around 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon, they received a report of a man trying to cash a fraudulent check at a bank on Mackenzie Boulevard. When officers arrived, they arrested the man, and while escorting him outside, a struggle took place and the man allegedly produced a weapon. RCMP say one officer fired their gun, striking the man. The suspect was taken to the hospital but later died. The IIO is now investigating. Quesnel's mayor is seeking a judicial review of sanctions imposed on him by City Council. In April, the mayor was stripped of many of his duties after he and his wife recommended a controversial book about residential schools, which councillors say damaged the city's relations with local First Nations. Now the mayor is petitioning the courts. Betsy Trumpener reports.
I am sorry that it has come to this, and I will work my heart out to make reparations.
Mayor Ron Paul is petitioning the BC Supreme Court to quash Quesnel Council's actions and reinstate his travel budget and the board and committee roles stripped from him. Paul's 23-page application for a judicial review was filed late last week. The mayor states that the allegations that his wife shared the book Grave Error and that he showed the book to 2 regional district directors were not a rational or reasonable basis to sanction him. He says council's actions were unreasonable, unfair, and a breach of his procedural rights. Paul says he was, quote, ambushed when council invited local chiefs and elders to speak when the matter wasn't on the agenda. Paul's petition states that censure and sanctions should not be, quote, a tool to be wielded for cheap political gain. Quesnel councillors say they can't comment on matters before the court. The Lataco Diné's traditional territory includes Quesnel. A Lataco spokesperson says he hopes Paul's petition is rejected. The Lataco have already banned Paul from their territory and say they are still waiting for an apology from the mayor. Betsy Trumpener, CBC News, Prince George.
Back in Vancouver, United Airlines has removed an aircraft for deep cleaning. The move comes after about 25 passengers reportedly felt sick during a Friday night flight from Vancouver to Houston, Texas. The airline says those who were sick had all been on a cruise together in Vancouver. The Houston Fire Department says it evaluated 3 passengers at the airport, but no one went to the hospital. United Airlines says it's working with health authorities to address the situation. The company did not identify the cruise. The flight was carrying 163 passengers and 6 crew. It has been a soggy Sunday in the Lower Mainland. Environment Canada issuing a rainfall warning for Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley due to a Pacific frontal system. Some areas could see as much as 60 millimeters of rain by tomorrow morning. The warning says localized flooding is possible in low-lying areas and that heavy downpours may also cause flash floods and water pooling on roads. The Weather Office Agency first issued a rainfall warning for Metro Vancouver on Saturday, but expanded the alert Sunday to cover the Fraser Valley, including Chilliwack and Hope. Metro Vancouver issued a separate advisory warning that the weather could cause high flows for the North Shore's Capilano and Seymour rivers. It noted the rivers can change drastically without much notice. The heavy rain is expected to ease into showers by Monday morning. All right, let's take a look at how long those showers will be sticking around and how long you'll have to keep that umbrella nice and close. We'll begin with a peek at our forecast for tonight. Lots of precipitation across the board in many areas of the province. Lower temperatures, but we're still sticking in double digits in some areas. Tomorrow morning, Tomorrow rather, it is going to continue to rain in many areas. 12 is a high for Fort St. John tomorrow with chances of thunderstorms. Same in Prince George with a chance of those thunderstorms, and Williams Lake as well. Checking out Kelowna for a high of 16 for tomorrow, and Victoria, you're going to see about a high of 14 for tomorrow. And in Metro Vancouver, the 5-day forecast is 15 for tomorrow with those scattered showers throughout the day. Those showers are going to stick around for Tuesday with a high of 16, but that's going to clear up on Wednesday with a high of 17 and warming right up for next weekend. Hundreds of people came together at Burnaby's Riverway Sport Complex for a weekend of softball. The annual Summer Slam Slow Pitch Tournament is for people recovering from drug and alcohol abuse. It's billed as an opportunity to normalize sobriety and show that people can and do recover from addiction. The CBC's Shoria Chethri has more.
The game of softball is helping people stay sober and have fun in recovery.
It's cool that we're all out here as a community, supporting each other.
We're all here to have fun, and that's the number one thing.
Even the rain can dampen their spirits.
The trauma and lived experience of individuals that have gone through the trials and tribulations of substance abuse are nothing compared to rain.
Wilson has been playing in the tournament since it started back in 2016.
And I can tell you from my own experience, 18 plus years ago when I was in treatment, I was given the opportunity to come out and play ball. And for me, that was a very, eventful, cathartic experience.
The tournament is run and sponsored by Together We Can, a Canadian non-profit addiction treatment service provider. This year, 28 teams took to the field, some with players in treatment centers across the Lower Mainland. David Dunham started playing 2 years ago. Now he helps coach the Pelicans.
It really changed the whole trajectory of my recovery. I'm trying to pass that spirit onto these newcomers on my team.
On the diamond, Dunham says there's no judgment, only understanding, and maybe some healthy competition.
I want the trophy.
Some players are still new to recovery. They say softball gives them an opportunity to access their support network outside of recovery meetings.
Something where we're all in recovery, we're all here to play together and have some fun. For me, I'm early sobriety. It's something I need to get right. I want to get right and staying connected with everybody here.
To laugh with each other and cry with each other, it's an absolutely healing journey.
In this tournament, players say hits and runs aren't the most important stats.
It's not about the winning here. It is about coming out and supporting one another and having fun.
Shoria Chethri, CBC News, Burnaby.
Today is Canadian Armed Forces Day, and cadets from across Metro Vancouver were at the Italian Cultural Centre for a screening of a film called Gino, A Child of War. It chronicles the true story of a 5-year-old orphan boy in Italy who was taken by Canadian soldiers during World War II. They cared for him for 10 months while fighting.
Gino is a story of hope and how Canadian personnel in our military operate in a theater of war.
This movie actually is the epitome of a feel-good story about how the Canadian soldiers took on this child and looked after him for all that time, and it's a beautiful tie-in, and it's also very good for us to teach our cadets the story behind this.
The Calgary-made docudrama has premiered in countries around the world. Gino Braglia, the young boy featured in the film, is now 86 years old. Today also marks Italian Independence Day. Birds and grassland-reliant species will now have more protected habitat thanks to a new conservation area near Cranbrook.
It ticks all the marks on species at risk, including several rare grassland plants that occur on the property. And so it's a great asset to be able to conserve a parcel on the floor of the Rocky Mountain Trench.
The Nature Conservancy of Canada acquired roughly 270 hectares of land in the Skookumchuck Prairie north of Cranbrook. The area is a biodiversity hotspot for a unique bird called the long-billed curlew, which has been designated a special species of special concern. The land was purchased by a former rancher who wanted to see the area protected rather than developed. The province says protecting grasslands is an important natural climate solution. June marks Filipino Heritage Month, and BC is one step closer to having its own Filipino cultural center.
If I came here as a new immigrant, it would be very, very helpful to have that community center, because there's a hub for me to really feel welcome and feel that, the Canadian government, the provincial government, or the BC government is actually recognizing our presence.
On Friday, the province kicked off its initial public consultation looking at the creation of a cultural hub to celebrate Filipino Canadian heritage. The survey asked people to share their perspectives and vision for a provincial Filipino cultural center. There is no word yet on where the new cultural center will be located. According to Stats Canada, Filipino Canadians are the third largest visible minority group in BC. Still ahead, some school districts are turning to prefab classroom expansions to manage overcrowding. But not everyone believes it's the best path forward. More on that story after the break. There's a new trend in Canadian schools, prefab classrooms. It's a quick way to deal with growing enrollment, but not everyone thinks it's a good plan. The CBC's Deanna Sumanak-Johnson has the story.
For school districts that don't have enough space for a booming student population, they may be the perfect solution. Schools take years and years to build, but this prefabricated expansion started in January will be ready to welcome students by September.
These need to be built now and as quickly as possible, but at the same level of quality that a regular build would have.
Unlike old portables, the new modular structures can have heating, air conditioning, washrooms, and common areas. Prefabricated elements like wall panels are manufactured off-site, then assembled on the school site, cutting construction time and costs.
The latest technologies I have seen, they are not only high performance, but it's also resilient and could stay on as long as the school is there, as long as it's needed.
But they're not a perfect substitution. In the UK, fears about structural failures connected to a specific manufacturer shut down a number of them. Some had to be demolished before they ever opened.
It's the places where you create these shared experiences.
This urban planning professor says prefab or modular schools can be a good option, but there's a vast range of quality.
Prefabrication is not a panacea. I think we need to be doing detailed studies of the manufacturers, of the suppliers, of their track record, of the buildings that have been built, how they've aged, how the wear and tear, to really make sure that they work.
School districts turning to prefab school expansions also concern some parents.
What we're doing is pushing our problems down the road. Like, we still need schools. And so when you build prefabs, you're taking up existing field space, playground space.
But back in Colwood, BC, quick and high quality will have to do for now, as they hope these concrete slabs and steel panels could lay the foundation for years of learning. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Here is a live shot of the Port of Vancouver. After the break, do names influence jobs? We'll learn more about what's behind a phenomenon known as nominative determinism. That's next.
So I know when I really like a song, if within the first 3 seconds, I'm already vibing to it.
Hey, I'm Rohith Joseph. Vibin' is the new show all about discovering great new songs and fresh artists from across BC and beyond.
It's not one person dictating what good music is, it's the community sharing what good music is.
Stream Vibin' on CBC Listen.
The Edmonton Oilers are going to the Stanley Cup Finals, and Canada is that much closer to its first cup in 31 years. The Oilers scored twice in the first period of Game 6 of the Western Conference Final tonight. Dallas pushed hard back, finally scoring in the third, but it was not enough as the Oilers claim the West title with a 2-1 victory. Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final is set to open on Saturday night in Florida. Sometimes you come across people whose names match their jobs just a little too well, like sprinter Usain Bolt. It's a phenomenon called nominative determinism. The CBC's Akshay Kulkarni spoke with a psychologist who says your name could influence your career choice.
My name is Forrest Howard. I'm the Communication and Engagement Specialist for BC Wildfire.
With a name like Forrest, you might think a job speaking for the Forest Ministry just makes sense. But Tower says he didn't plan to end up working where he does.
There was a summer position in the finance section, actually, which kind of was aligned with my university degree. And I just applied because it seemed interesting, but never thought of working for government or specifically BC Wildfire.
Tower fell into his job as a matter of circumstance, but others chose to match their lives and their name.
My name is Anne Nightingale.
Terry Bird.
My name is Yannicka Chick. Robin Byrne.
All of the people that just introduced themselves are board members of the Rocky Point Bird Observatory, and for them, their avian names helped them in their job.
We all do promotion for Rocky Point Bird Observatory, and people love the fact that we have bird names. So it's turned out to be very good all around for us personally and for the organization.
Psychologists say that your name could push you towards a certain job or hobby. Scientists have even confirmed the effect by studying census data from the US and the UK.
We saw a very clear and pronounced preference for people to take on occupations that were their last names.
Pelham explains that people naturally gravitate towards things associated with their names. He says that your name could also determine where you move and whom you marry.
Some people find the idea that we're not always in control of our behavior scary or threatening. I treat it as a fact of life.
So the next time someone asks you what's in a name, tell them it could very well be your future career. Akshay Kulkarni, CBC News, Vancouver.
That is your late news for this Sunday. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. For news anytime, head to our website. Hope you have a great night.